Now that you've got a clearer idea of market rate for your target role, let's tackle one of the most common and, let's face it, the most nerve-wracking questions in job interviews. What are your salary expectations for this role? You want to aim high without pricing yourself out, and you don't want to undercut your value just to get the job. So let's ask ChatGPT to help you frame a strong answer. The question we're asking is, how can I answer the question, what are your salary expectations for a customer success manager role in Austin, Texas? Okay. When you're asked, what are your salary expectations for a customer success manager or CSM role in Austin, Texas? Here's how you can answer it with confidence, professionalism, and alignment to your market value, 3 to 5 years of experience. Now, one thing to note here is that because I kept the same conversation in which we were discussing with ChatGPT wanting to understand the salary for a CSM position with 3 to 5 years of experience, it assumed that our next question about how do we answer what are your salary expectations was for someone with 3 to 5 years of experience. So it's important to note that if you wanted to ask this question without this assumption baked in, you would have to tell ChatGPT in your prompt that you don't want it to, I guess you could say, carry forward any of the information from your previous interaction. Or you could simply start a brand new, fresh conversation so that it doesn't allow the previous conversation response or a question and response or prompt and response, however you'd like to look at it. It won't then allow this to interfere with this next response. For our purposes, however, let's just go ahead and continue with the idea that you're someone who wants a CSM role with 3 to 5 years of experience in Austin, Texas, and you're going to be asked this question and you want to prepare for it. So, what it first tells you is the ideal answer format. So, what ChatGPT is doing here is setting you up for success by teaching you what to say and the order in which to say it. That's very, very important. It's not telling you a specific answer right away. It's saying, here's what you need to do to answer in the most ideal fashion. And then, of course, it gives you a sample answer that it put together based on this guidance. So let's go here and look at what it says. Number one, start with gratitude and flexibility. So you could say, thank you for asking. I'm open to discussing compensation in the context of the overall role and benefit. Then say something that cites your market based research because this will do a couple of things. First of all, it tells the prospective employer that you're interviewing with that you've taken initiative, that you've done your research, and that you know what someone in this type of position should be earning. And also, it helps you set them up to say, well, if you tell them that your typical base range is between $85,000 and $100,000 based on all your research, it'll be a little bit embarrassing for them to come back and say, $60,000 is all we can give you. You know what I mean? This actually serves a couple of different purposes and is quite brilliant to put near the beginning of your response. So you've said, thank you for asking. I'm open to discussing compensation in the context of the overall role and benefits. Based on my research and current data for CSM roles in Austin with 3 to 5 years of experience, the typical base salary range is around $85,000 to $100,000. Now comes the time when you state your range confidently with a bit of a buffer. And what that means is you say, okay, I know what the base range is, minimum to maximum, for someone with my years of experience here in this city in this role. For me personally, this is what I'm looking for in terms of a range. And you give it a little bit of a buffer, meaning you add a little bit. So you can see here that even though you know the top range is $100,000, you've added in a little bit of a buffer because you don't want to undersell yourself. So if you were to tell them, oh, I'm looking for $90,000 a year, Maybe they were prepared to pay you $100 or $105,000 a year. And now you've undercut yourself by stating something too low. This helps get away from that problem so that you're not saying you'll work for less than maybe they would have hired you for. So now you say, for this role, I'd be looking for a base salary in the range of $90,000 to $105,000, depending on the scope, responsibilities, and bonus structure. Once again, this part is very, very important because you're telling them that if the scope is smaller, I'm okay with the 90. If it's a larger scope of work, then I want more. Same with responsibilities. If I'm just going to be managing, let's say, 5 people and only have 2 accounts myself, then fine, I can go with the lower amount. But if you've got me managing a team of 20 people or handling perhaps 5 or 6 or more accounts on my own, that's a lot more responsibility. And you would expect to be compensated for the additional amount of responsibility. And then finally, you also mentioned bonus structure. So we learned way back here in the very first video that covers this particular compensation model that there are possibilities for earning more money depending on the type of work it is. So you could maybe earn 10 or 20% of a bonus as part of the compensation, which would also factor into your negotiation with this prospective employer. And then wrap up your answer by emphasizing the total compensation. So, what it suggests is I'm also very interested in the full compensation package, including performance bonuses, benefits, and growth opportunities. So, we've already talked about the performance bonuses. Benefits are usually a very big deal, especially when you are applying to larger corporations that have quite robust benefits packages usually. You may be willing to go to your lower end of your range, even if there's more responsibility, if the company pays full benefits for you and your family, for example, because that would mean you wouldn't have to pay for this out of pocket, which means you could get by on a lower salary to begin with. And then it talks about growth opportunities. Growth opportunities have to do with, can I grow in this? Are there ways for me to perhaps get paid more if I take some classes or Udemy courses or college courses? Or is there some other way of me moving up the ladder that might allow me to increase my salary over my tenure? Thank you for asking. I'm open to a range depending on the full scope of the role and benefits. Based on my research, the typical base salary for a customer success manager in Austin, with my experience, is between $85,000 and $100,000. For this role, I'd be targeting something in the 90 to 105K range, especially if it includes performance incentives or strategic client responsibilities. I'm also very interested in the full compensation package and opportunities for growth within the team. Here are some strategy notes that are very important for you to look at. Don't go too low just to get in the door. You could anchor yourself beneath your worth. If there's a company that you desperately want to work for whatever your reasons might be, maybe it's a Fortune 500 company or it has a great reputation, you might say, oh, I'll work for you for $80,000. Well, you've already started at quite a significantly low end of the salary range, and you're undervaluing yourself as a result. Avoid giving just one number. Don't say, I want $90,000 a year. Give the range like it showed you. I'm willing to go between 90 and 105,000 a year. If you are pressed to name a number first, go to the high end of your justified range. Don't go to the low end. Say, I want 105,000. Why? Because that's a negotiating point. That's something where if the employer feels that you're the best fit for the position, they will come back and say, okay, we really want to give you this job. We can't pay you the 105. Would you take 95, for example? That still falls within your range. They're happy because they're able to hire you for 10K less than you wanted, and you're happy because it still falls within what you need to survive in your daily life. And if you're early in interviews, it's okay to say, I'd love to learn more about the full responsibilities and expectations of the role before committing to a specific number, but I can share a range based on market data when helpful. What this means is if you've just sat down and you've only been talking to them for a few minutes and you haven't really discussed the position and all of its responsibilities and the scope of it, this is where you can say this because you don't really yet know what they're going to tell you the scope and responsibilities of the project are, and you don't want to lowball yourself simply because you're not aware of what they're going to be giving you. Then you can see that ChatGPT rounds it out by saying, would you like help customizing this based on the exact job posting or your resume and skills? In which case, you can simply copy and paste the job posting, you can copy and paste or upload your resume, or you can simply list what your skills are. And then ChatGPT can help you refine this little blurb right here to be much more specific to your individual situation. You may have skills that might sell you as deserving that $105,000 a year because there's something very special that you can do. You can refine it by adding the salary data from your earlier research or by including specific accomplishments that justify the higher end of the range. Next up, we're going to ask ChatGPT for interview ready talking points.